don't you guys wish that you could have learned about money a lot earlier? But you think a lot of the things and problems you run into, you might not have ever ran into. Okay, right? I understand. I made mistakes. You make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. But if you're a parent of a teenager, take a breath. All right? Because now, guiding your soon to be adults, it's not going to be an easy task, especially as they explore interests, get their first jobs, emotional up and down, right? And then they start planning for that future. All these things, can be made a little bit easier because they don't need money problems too, right? And those bad habits. And hard as it might be to imagine adding to your parenting tasks, right? You know, you need to teach them the important guidance about money. They may be getting their first jobs and making and spending money, and they're probably thinking about life after high school and being on their own, right? So, first thing we want to talk about is money is a tool, not a goal. Because while many teens may seem a lot more interested in what they can buy with their money, have a conversation about what their values and priorities are and how money fits into that. Now, these might be tough, for them to identify, so make it relatable. Ask stuff like, do you want to support causes important to you? Do you need a car to get to work? Do you want to be able to help out a friend when they're in need? Do you want to save money so you can go to college? Right? The idea is to emphasize that money is a tool to help them achieve what's important to them and to help develop a healthy mindset around money. As they start to earn more money and have discretion over what they do with it, this could become a very important practice, and make sure you're periodically checking in with their priorities, right? Because priorities change. So the next thing we want to talk about is the share, save, spend method, right? Now, this method's easy to understand and execute. Gives a sense of control, can become a lifelong practice. Here's the basics. Anytime your teen is going to earn or are given money, encourage them to divide it into those categories. That helps them to assign percentages to them so they can learn the rewards of being disciplined and consistent. And once they start working, help them to set it up so paychecks are directly deposited and split up according to their share, right? Save, spend percentages, right? The next thing is we want to make sure that we're setting goals, but achievable money goals, right? Because identifying money goals helps your teens achieve what they want. They can be short term, like saving for soccer gear, long term, saving for college. But knowing the goals is just the first step. Next is making a plan for actually achieving them. To help with that, something you can use is called the SMART method. Now, S, that stands for specific. Be very clear and specific about what exactly you want to achieve, right? The M stands for measurable, right? Example, I want to have $50 to contribute to an important cause. The A stands for achievable. Be realistic about the goal you're setting so that you can achieve it. The R stands for relevant. You stand a better chance of achieving a goal that's very important to you or relevant to you. And the T stands for time. You need to set a deadline for your goal, right? Setting SMART goals helps your teen focus on exactly what they want, gives them a structure, a timetable for reaching them. It's also a good time to talk about needs versus wants. Needing a new pair of soccer cleats because they've outgrown the old ones versus wanting the latest, online game. Now, your teens can plan for both, but the key is to understand that needs come first. Understanding this concept also helps them resist impulsive purchases. Right? Teens get a lot of pressure from various sources to spend money, all these advertisers, influencers on social media, friends. Taking a pause before spending is one of the ways to resist. The fourth thing that we're going to be talking about is going to be those debit cards. But we're going to treat those debit cards like cash, because if your teens are just starting out with a debit card, right, there's a good lesson to give them. When you use a debit card, the money comes directly out of your personal savings or checking account. The account needs to be monitored to avoid going below required minimum balances and having to pay penalties, right? You could download whatever bank it is that you guys are using for their account, right? You could download that bank app and you can keep an eye on their account, right? Or you could just add an account onto yours, right? If you want to do it that way. So we talked about debit cards. So what about credit cards? Well, treat those like loans, because teens know what credit cards are, even if they don't have one. But they don't understand that they're different than debit cards. You need to explain how credit cards work. Some of the points you can make is when you charge a purchase on a credit card, you're putting off paying for the item. So it's like taking out a loan. You shouldn't charge anything unless you know you can pay it off in full in like 2 to 3 weeks when the statement arrives. If you don't pay the entire balance, you'll face paying very high interest rates on the unpaid balance, which in essence increases the cost of the item you purchased. Now, to ease your teens into using one, you could get a low limit card, encourage them to make just small purchases at first that they know they can pay off. As an example, my first one was a $500 credit card that I used to get gas. That was it. Easy. So the sixth thing is going to be budgets. 'Cause, budgets are good for you. They're good for teens, right? And while living at home, your teen's finances may be so basic that you might think a budget, it's not really needed. But it can be useful and certainly will be important when your kids live on their own. Explain how a budget complements the idea of dividing your money into share, save, and spend buckets. Show them what one looks like and how a budget works, right? They can use a budget today to plan for future expenses, gas, going out to dinner with friends, an income, right? Babysitting money, part-time job money, as well as they can look backwards to see where they spent the money, right? Because we're keeping track of it. They could even use a budget app, or they go old school and do their own spreadsheet, right? Show them how you manage your budget and be willing to answer questions, even the ones that might make you feel a little awkward or uncomfortable, like, well, how much money do you make? Right? You're going to be modeling a healthy, open attitude about money when you do so. So it's recommended. Now, the last thing we want to talk about is money saved can be money earned, right? Learning to save money is a valuable lesson. But there's another related topic worth discussing: the impact of compound interest. Now, while the topic of saving for retirement may be important to discuss, talking about compound interest is a way to get teens, or, I mean, really anyone, just really interested, right? Add anything you can to pique their interest about any of these topics, right? And, there's a greater chance they'll learn some valuable habits around money, right? And that's the goal, right? You want them to be interested, and when they're interested, they want to learn, and then when they learn and they build these really good habits from an early age, they're going to be much better off, right? And that's what we all want. We want our kids to be much better off than we were, right? Set them up for success. So hopefully this, guys, is going to steer you guys in that right direction, give you some good information on how to approach the subject, things to talk about, or even some ways to go about handling it, right? But I do hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, smash that like button. If you're not subscribed to the channel, I'd appreciate it if you did. But until I see you guys in the next one, y'all be safe.